All right. I'm not sure what's happening, but oh, you're swapping. So you're going next, Martin? Okay, all right, Martin wants to go first. How about that? So Martin Lee, a manager of the APAC expansion at Hired, and he's going to be interviewed by Danny Lee of Blue Pool Capital. So Martin is one of these high-profile, fast-emerging tech entrepreneurs here in the Hong Kong region, and may or may not be in a Forbes Asia issue going forward. And Danny Lee is a partner at Blue Pool Capital, and he's investing across a number of asset classes, and he's, of course, invested in Martin's firm. So Martin and Danny, take it away.
All right, thank you. Sorry for the confusion. Given some timing constraints, we want to go ahead and first, and Martin couldn't wait to tell his story, so we decided to go first. So maybe, Martin, you can start off by kind of introducing yourself a little bit and let everyone know your background and how you got here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Danny, for being here with me. Just a quick background on myself. I was born in Shenzhen, and shortly after, my mom actually moved to New Zealand, which I obviously followed her. After going through schooling in New Zealand, I actually went to university in US. I went to Boston University. And I graduated with a finance degree. And like every aspiring finance graduate, I wanted a job in private equity. I was very lucky when I graduated. I was able to land a job in private equity in Hong Kong. And at that time, I was very happy with my job, doing some great things with some great people. However, like many of you here, I caught the entrepreneurial bug. So that's kind of how it all started.
All right. Well, you want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial experience. What was your first entrepreneurial experience, and how do you get to it?
Yeah, so it was a very random coincidence. So one day, I received a phone call from an unknown number, and it was a friend from college actually, and she called me and said, "Hey Martin, Uber's coming to Asia. Are you interested?" At that time, I had two questions in my head, really. Number one was, what is Uber? And number two was, I'm pretty sure you called me because I'm the only person you know in Asia. So, at that time, Uber was 100-odd employees, only in about 12 cities. And what I thought at the time, it was mainly a gut decision. And it was more of a case of why not? Because at the time, I was actually in a situation of, I think, looking at the possible outcomes of my career. If I think about my career in finance, it's generally a very stable ladder to the top. However, I saw the entrepreneurial opportunity as something with almost unlimited upside. And given the opportunity at the time of working in a business role in a technology company, I made the call and just jumped over.
So how has that experience been? I mean, Uber has been an amazing story. A little bit of rough rides in Hong Kong these days, but overall it's been a great experience for you probably. Can you talk a little bit more about what you learned at Uber, things like that?
Yeah, so I think at Uber, the thing I learned the most was making big, bold bets. And this kind of started as soon as my decision to join Uber. And it continued throughout, and it became an attitude I really subscribed to. It was trying a lot of things. And if you identified the right opportunity, like I thought at the time, a change of career, or a particular marketing or operation decision. If you believe in it, you have to make big, bold investments into it and to make it successful, no matter what. There's no going into it half-assed.
Well, I'm not going to ask you how many options you have at Uber, but sure, it sounds pretty good right now. So what happened after Uber? Where are you now?
So right now, I manage Asia expansion for another recruitment startup called Hired.com. And we're based in San Francisco with 12 markets internationally. And it's a curated platform for software engineers. And the difference is that companies reach out to candidates as opposed to the other way around. So, we've raised $100 million in venture funding. And at the moment, someone gets a job on Hired.com every 3 hours.
So since we just had someone talk about the hiring experience, so can you talk a little bit about how you guys are different, let's say, than other typical hiring platforms?
So the easiest way to describe it is on the Hired platform, the company gets a curated list of candidates that are not only interested in in a new job, as well as they assess for quality. So if you look at other platforms out there, the LinkedIns of the world, where you have a database of people, but you don't know who's looking for a job. Or you have a job board where a lot of people apply, but you never know whether they're good or not. So what we do is we solve both of those issues and make the recruitment environment much more enjoyable and efficient, both for the company as well as the candidate. The candidate also gets upfront, transparent information, unlike many jobs or agencies which you work with that are very a black box.
So being in that role, it sounds like you have a lot of freedom as an individual working at the firm. What lessons or additional lessons do you learn, you think, from entrepreneurship that you have taken away from this new job?
So, I think about lessons learned as, especially at Hired, is failing fast and able to pivot as quickly as possible. When we were setting up Hired in Australia, we knew that copying a US, model was not going to work apples to apples in Australia, especially given that recruitment is it's an industry with a lot of human touch. So people appreciate the human element, and we knew that we can't fully automate every single process. So what we did in Australia was, quite frankly, try a lot of different things. I think someone mentioned before that it's a process of iteration, and I 100% believe in that because people might be experts in that industry, but you still have to do it in order to see the results. And the quicker you can see results, either make big, bold bets on the things that are going well, or iterate and do other things and figure out the next big thing. I think that is essential in what we found at Hired to be very successful. In Australia, in this particular example, is the fastest growing market at Hired thus far.
So it's, I would say it's pretty rare actually for someone your age to be involved in already at least one very successful kind of startup, be involved in that, and then moving on to something else. What would be your advice to, if there are younger people here in Hong Kong, what should they be thinking about when it comes to kind of their careers and things like that?
Yeah, so I think I think of my journey in the entrepreneurship as kind of like going on a hike today. It's obviously weather's not great, and when you go on this hike, it's peppered with rocks, rain, trees, hills, just a lot of traps where you could fall over. However, you know that when you get to the other side, you're going to be thankful and you're going to have experienced many, many great things along the way to achieve your goal. And I think going on this hike or entrepreneurship journey, if you will, is it's not easy, but it requires big, bold investment in your decision, and it also requires very prudent kind of risk-taking when you make these decisions, which I was fortunate enough to make a couple of these decisions that so far has still on the hike, but we'll see how that turns out.
So basically, take chances, go for the experience, right?
Yes.
Any other interesting opportunities you think that are out there that you're seeing personally?
Yeah, so I think opportunities are in every industry, and if you're the best in any industry, like opening a restaurant, you could be great. Specifically, I am very interested in, I think of myself as an entrepreneur, not just in technology, but in a kind of in life, if you will. So I think, from my perspective, there is actually a lot of opportunity in doing and taking action, as opposed to a specific business. So, there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the room. I would think you all agree that the less glamorous side of entrepreneurship is actually doing things and taking action. And I think no matter what industry you're in, being able to take action and do things and try things out is, you'll figure out if it works, great. If not, you have to focus on something else. Recently, someone came to me with a particular Swedish watch opportunity. And I use this example a lot because my natural instinct was to buy 100 watches and see if I can sell it, right? And from my perspective, if I can sell it, then that means I have a business there. If I don't, then I would understand the things required to do it. And for me, the opportunity lies in action, no matter what industry you're looking at.
Well, that sounds great. That's really good words of advice for all these entrepreneurs out there. Big, bold bets and fail fast and take action. So thank you, Martin, and thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
For being
Thank
here.
you.
Round of applause.